I've always been a night owl even before my work as a systems engineer started demanding it. There's something about the quiet hum of the world after midnight that sharpens my focus. That night wasn't any different. I had my laptop propped on a small pillow, blueprints spread on the bed beside me, a mug of now-cold coffee on the nightstand. Lauren, my wife, had been in the shower for a while, longer than usual, but I wasn't clock-watching. Not then anyway. That's when it happened. A Zoom notification popped up in the lower corner of my screen, the kind you see a dozen times a day. But this one made me pause. It was a meeting invite under Lauren's name with the title Quarterly Strategy Sync. It struck me as odd, not just because it was nearly 11:30 p.m., but because Lauren didn't usually schedule work meetings from her personal laptop, which is synced with our home Wi-Fi. Especially not late-night ones. She's in corporate HR, not a tech startup. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe something quieter, more instinctive. Either way, my hand moved before my thoughts caught up. I clicked join. At first, just a blank screen. No video. No participants visible. But then voices. A man's voice. Smooth, relaxed, a little cocky. You always do this when you're nervous. You twist your necklace like you're about to say something innocent. There was a pause. Then a laugh. Hers. Low, familiar, and in asterisk made in a way that didn't fit any boardroom context. My skin went cold. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the screen, heart thudding in my ears like bass from a too-loud speaker. There were no names visible, no video feeds. But I knew that laugh. I knew the tone it carried when she wasn't aware someone else was listening. Just as I reached to mute my mic, Lauren's face appeared in the video feed. She must have entered the room at that moment. Her eyes flicked toward the screen, and for a second, no longer, her mouth parted in what I could only interpret as shock. Then the call disconnected. Silence again. The kind that doesn't feel empty but charged. Electric. I sat frozen, laptop balanced on my knees, staring at the empty screen like it would offer me some kind of explanation. But none came. 15 minutes passed before I heard the bathroom door open. She walked in, wrapped in a white towel, steam curling behind her like mist from a dream. She looked perfect. Normal. She even smiled, that casual, polished expression that had always calmed me before. She moved toward the dresser like she hadn't just disconnected a call with an unidentified man while laughing like a teenager caught sneaking out. Stupid laptop's acting weird, she said, picking up her lotion. I had to jump on for a minute. Work thing. I didn't answer right away. Didn't know your team did strategy calls this late, I finally said, trying to keep my voice neutral. It came out a little too casual. She didn't miss a beat. Last-minute request. Someone in the London office had a conflict. It was annoying. She gave me a tight smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. Nothing exciting. But that was the thing, it was too smooth. Too clean. Her story was too airtight for something spontaneous. And her eyes, they weren't apologetic or sheepish like someone caught in something harmless. They were flat. Irritated. Like I had interrupted something important. I said nothing more. I didn't ask who the man was. Didn't mention the laugh. I just nodded. She climbed into bed a few minutes later, still chatting about her day, something about rescheduling compliance training and her assistant forgetting to update a slide deck. Her tone was light. Normal. Like she was playing a part written long ago. But I wasn't in that scene anymore. I was somewhere else entirely, floating above the bed, disconnected, hearing her words but no longer believing they were just words. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat up in bed for a long time. I didn't check my phone. I didn't look at the call logs. I just stared at the ceiling fan slowly turning overhead, its rhythm maddening. I replayed it in my mind over and over again. The man's voice, the laugh, the flicker of her face when she saw she wasn't alone in that call. The way she immediately closed it without so much as a hey. And then her explanation, the timing, the detail, the effort she put into making sure it sounded like no big deal. But that was the problem. It was too effortless. Too manufactured. She hadn't reacted like someone caught in an awkward moment. She reacted like someone who had prepared for the possibility and knew exactly what to say when it happened. That realization didn't come with panic. It came with something colder. Something quieter. Doubt. And once that seed planted itself, it refused to stay buried. I didn't sleep much that night. Just lay there beside her, listening to her breathe, watching her body rise and fall like everything was normal. Like we weren't standing at the edge of something I couldn't quite name yet. But deep down I knew. Something was wrong. And this wasn't just a glitch. The next morning, the world hadn't ended. The sun still rose over our quiet Georgian neighborhood, casting soft light through the blinds. But everything looked different. Or maybe it was me seeing the same details for the first time through a new lens. Lauren was already downstairs by the time I woke up, moving through her usual morning routine, eggs, coffee, Bluetooth speaker humming with a morning news podcast. But as I descended the stairs, I watched her like a stranger. I watched how she moved, how her phone never left her side, how she silenced it twice before she even finished her eggs. She didn't meet my eyes as she talked, just kept tidying up the counter with movements that felt too precise. When she mentioned she might have to travel again next week, Savannah, maybe Thursday through Saturday, it was tossed out like an afterthought. That alone wouldn't have been enough to worry me. But taken with what I'd heard the night before, it didn't sit right. Lauren didn't travel often for work, and when she did, it came with emails, calendar blocks, client decks laid out on the dining table. This time, there was nothing. No briefing notes. No printouts. Just a sleek duffel bag I didn't recognize sitting by the front door. After she left for work, I walked over to that bag. I wasn't proud of it. But curiosity had become something hungrier now, like a buzz behind my eyes I couldn't quiet. I didn't open it. Not then. I just stood over it, staring. It was brand new. Designer. And it had a faint scent of something that wasn't her usual perfume, lighter, floral, almost like lavender. I hadn't seen her wear it. Not once. That day, instead of focusing on my client's architectural redesign, I opened the email tied to our old shared reservations account, the one we used to use when booking anniversary dinners or trips. We hadn't used it in over a year, but it was still linked to my name. There, sitting bold and unread, was a dinner reservation confirmation from 3 weeks ago. For two. At a steakhouse downtown known more for romantic ambience than business meetings. The name on the reservation wasn't one of her clients. I recognized it vaguely from a conversation. Eric, maybe a guy she mentioned once, part of a vendor liaison team, not someone I'd thought twice about. But something about the name made my chest tighten. I started piecing things together, not like a detective but more like a guy watching the floor slowly crumble under his feet. Lauren had changed in subtle ways over the past few months. She'd started using encrypted apps, Signal, Telegram, apps I only noticed when I borrowed her phone once to check a news article. Her lock screen notifications were hidden, always silent. She had switched her perfume entirely. Stopped wearing the cozy amber vanilla scent I used to trace on her pillow and started smelling like she belonged somewhere colder. Sleeker. She'd bought new clothes too, things she didn't wear at home or even to her office, at least not on the days I saw her leave. Once she posted a photo to her Instagram story while she was supposedly on an out-of-town training. It was of a cocktail glass held up to a sunset over the water. Pretty normal, except reflected in the window behind her drink was a man's hand. I only noticed because of the watch. It wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone I knew. She deleted the story within minutes. I'd screenshot it instinctively. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. But now it felt like evidence. Or at least, a crack in the glass. There were other things too. She used to leave her phone on the counter when she went to shower. Now it went with her everywhere, even into the laundry room or to check the mail. She smiled less, but when she did, it was often it's something on her phone, not something I said. And the way she touched me had changed, not completely withdrawn, but different. Like she was touching me out of memory, not desire. I started checking our shared accounts, joint credit card, travel points, the family calendar we had synced since our honeymoon. That's when it all began to truly unravel. There were charges that didn't add up. Spa treatments in places she never mentioned. Rideshare trips that began in unfamiliar neighborhoods. A single hotel charge in Savannah that she'd never told me about. When I brought it up casually, she said, "Oh, that must have been a mistake. I think the vendor booked something weird." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But her tone, that same rehearsed, distant tone from the Zoom call night, didn't match the words. Her eyes didn't blink long enough. Her mouth didn't twitch. She said it like reading from a script she had prepared just in case. I tried to confront her once. Sort of. We were in bed, the television playing some forgettable series we both pretended to care about. She was scrolling through her phone, screen tilted slightly away. I asked, "Are things good between us?" She looked up, blinked, smiled. "Of course," she said, without asking why I would ask that. No confusion. "No, what's going on?" "Just a soft pat on my leg and you've been working too hard, babe." And then she went back to her phone. That night, I didn't sleep again. I started making notes, not detailed, not organized, just fragments. Dates. Places. Phrases she used that felt too polished. Times when she was on a call but the sound from her office was silent. I even started logging when her scent changed, like she wore one version of herself during the day and another for someone else. I wasn't ready to accuse her. Not yet. There's a line between suspicion and evidence, and I was still hovering in the fog between. But something inside me had shifted. Something I couldn't put back. I kept thinking about the man's voice on the Zoom call. The familiarity. The ease. And how her laugh didn't sound like the one she used with me anymore. It sounded younger. Free. Like she had escaped the life we built together and was living a newer, more exciting one behind a locked screen. I didn't want to believe she was cheating. I didn't want to believe that the woman I married, the woman who once fell asleep tracing circles on my chest, who cried during Pixar movies, who made us matching playlists when we went on road trips, could be capable of hiding that much. But I also couldn't ignore what was in front of me. The phone that never left her side. The deleted post. The hotel bookings. The rehearsed answers. The chill in her eyes. And above all else, the laugh, that unmistakable laugh that had once been mine to hear, now playing in someone else's ears. Whatever was happening, it was more than a glitch. And I was done pretending I couldn't see it. Friday evening rolled in with that strange silence that always settles right before a storm. Lauren had packed her new designer duffel early that morning, tossed in a book she wasn't really reading, her noise-canceling headphones, and that travel-sized bottle of the perfume I now associated with somewhere I couldn't reach. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. "Savannah for the weekend," she said, smiling as if her mouth remembered how. I nodded. I didn't ask questions. I just watched her leave like I had 1,000 times before, only this time I waited by the window longer than usual until the rideshare taillights disappeared down the street. Then I opened our old cloud folder. It was a digital relic, something we had set up years ago when we were still syncing playlists and planning cross-country road trips. Mostly, it was cluttered now, dusty scans of old receipts, blurry vacation selfies, a random tax document from 2017. I hadn't checked it in over a year. But she had. Tucked at the top under a recently added folder titled Q1 Sales Decks were photos. 4 of them. They didn't belong to any work presentation. The first was Lauren on a balcony I didn't recognize, the Savannah skyline unmistakable in the background. She was in a swimsuit I hadn't seen before, something red, something low-cut, leaning over a railing, her head turned just enough to suggest she wasn't alone. Her eyes weren't looking at the camera but at someone just outside the frame. The second photo showed her sitting on a lounge chair, same setting. A man's hand rested on her knee. Not completely visible, but enough. A watch, silver, round face, leather band, and a thin braided bracelet with a single bead. The kind of accessory that was distinctive. Intentionally subtle. The third photo had them both in it. Barely. Just the edge of his profile, close-cropped beard, sunglasses pushed to his forehead. He was smiling. She was too. They were holding drinks. The fourth photo wasn't even of them. It was of a small hotel plate, a welcome gift of chocolate-covered strawberries with Mr. and Mrs. T written in script icing. Mr. and Mrs. My stomach nodded. My hands went cold. And that's when I knew. I recognized the bracelet. I'd seen it once before on a man Lauren had introduced me to at a holiday vendor event, Eric Tomlin. He was in business development, some external partner her team collaborated with. Friendly, maybe a little too charismatic, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Just another name in a sea of corporate faces. But now the name felt carved into stone. Eric. I closed the laptop and sat still for a long while. Not angry. Not even shocked. Just still. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from the outside, it starts inside you, like a dam holding back everything you don't want to feel. I walked into the closet and looked for her old gym bag, the black Nike one she used for work trips. Gone. In its place, the new duffel. And on the handle, a plastic key fob from a private spa I'd never heard her mention. Every detail, every deviation, every lie wrapped in polite casualness fit now. She hadn't slipped. She hadn't made a mistake. She had planned this. That night, I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, thinking. Not just about what she'd done, but about how calm she'd been doing it. She wasn't hiding like someone afraid of getting caught. She was managing her lie the way she might manage a quarterly review. With intention. With strategy. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't going to storm into Savannah or blow up her phone. That's not how I was raised, and it's not who I am. Confrontation without preparation is just noise. I wanted clarity. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with and how far it had gone. So the next morning, I drove into town and sat across from a man named Davis Mills, a private investigator recommended by an old college friend. He had a calm face, the kind that didn't flinch. Wore a wedding ring but didn't talk about his wife. He didn't judge me when I told him why I was there. She's smart, I said. She's covering her tracks. They usually are, he replied, nodding. But no one's invisible. I handed him a thumb drive with the screensh *TS, photos, and account activity I gathered. I watched as he scrolled through each one, nodding slowly. This is enough to build on, he said finally. I'll keep it discreet. Give me a few days. And that was it. The drive home felt longer than usual. My brain wasn't racing anymore. It had shifted into something colder, a state where emotion couldn't break through. Not yet. When I got home, I cleaned the kitchen. I folded laundry. I watered the plant Lauren always forgot about. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just waited. 2 days later, Davis called. He didn't need long. Lauren wasn't being nearly as clever as I thought. She's using a hidden email, he said. Alias account, pretty basic stuff, but it's connected to travel bookings and some hotel correspondence. He sent me the report digitally. I read it in silence, scrolling page after page as the full story unfolded. Lauren had been communicating with Eric for at least 6 months through a pseudonym email, LT_Riverwalk87 a blend of her initials and a reference to their first trip. Romantic. Cheaply so. Through that address, they coordinated travel. The messages weren't just casual, they were deliberate. Coded, sure, but Davis had decrypted enough to lay it all bare. They'd booked boutique hotels under fake names, Mr. and Mrs. Tyler, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Shared rideshare accounts. Even used a joint prepaid card, cleverly unlinked from our bank, but occasionally topped off using transfers from our shared account. Indirect enough to evade a quick glance, but not enough to evade Davis. One message stood out. Dated about 2 weeks ago. Eric, you're incredible. I don't know how he hasn't figured it out yet. Lauren, Grayson's emotionally checked out. He notices nothing. This life bores him. I reread that line 3 times. Emotionally checked out. Nothing she ever said to my face had stung more. That night, I backed up every file. Printed multiple copies. Tucked them into envelopes. One for my lawyer. One for safekeeping. I didn't contact her. Not yet. I didn't rage. I didn't drink. I didn't spiral. I was past that. Instead, I sat down at my desk and wrote down the date of our anniversary, 11 years, coming up next week. I circled it. That would be the day. Not the day I asked questions. Not the day I begged for clarity. Not the day I gave her another excuse to lie. It would be the day she saw everything she thought I didn't notice. And it would be the last day she would underestimate me. In the days that followed, I moved through my house like a ghost, quietly, deliberately watching everything with new eyes. Lauren was still gone on her trip to Savannah, though I now knew she wasn't working, not unless you counted keeping secrets as a full-time job. I kept telling myself not to react. Don't flinch. Don't show your hand. This wasn't the part of the story where I crumbled. This was the part where I watched. Where I learned. And I learned a lot. Davis, the private investigator, didn't just give me a report. He gave me a roadmap, every stop, every alias, every night Lauren spent pretending I didn't exist. He kept digging even after I asked him to stop. You'll want the whole picture, he said. Even if you think you don't. He was right. The hidden email account was only the beginning. Lauren had an entire secondary identity, a digital shadow of herself built piece by piece over the last year. A separate browser profile on her laptop. A new Venmo account under her maiden name. A private Google Photos folder that linked to a second phone. A burner she kept in the glove box of her car, tucked beneath the emergency blanket she hadn't touched since college. The photos in that album were clearer than the ones I found in our shared cloud. There were dozens, her and Eric laughing at a vineyard in Asheville, walking hand in hand through a botanical garden in Charleston, even posing beside a lighthouse on Tybee Island. Some of the selfies were taken in hotel bathrooms, bathrobes monogrammed with initials that weren't ours. Her expressions were soft, younger, like the woman I married, only not mine anymore. But it wasn't just trips and stolen weekends. There were emails, long ones. Emails where she talked about our life like it was a prison. Where she called me distant, checked out, predictable. She said I was comfortable but never exciting. That I didn't challenge her. That she felt like she was sleepwalking through our marriage. One message stuck in my head for days. It was from her to Eric after one of their trips. It's like he doesn't even see me anymore. He talks about renovations and buying a second car like we're building a future. But it doesn't feel like mine. With you, I feel alive. I don't want to be careful anymore. I want something real. Real. That word landed like a knife. I had given her real. A real house. A real partnership. Real loyalty. Real effort. And still, it hadn't been enough. Because what she wanted wasn't stability, it was escape. Excitement. She didn't want a life. She wanted a story. Well, now she was in one. The hotel receipts were another nail in the coffin. There were at least 6 different locations, all within a 3-hour drive. Lauren and Eric had stayed under pseudonyms, but the payments came from a prepaid Visa card tied directly to our joint account. Lauren had been reimbursing herself by masking the withdrawals as home improvement expenses. Hardware stores, furniture shops, gardening centers, places I never thought to question. But the timestamps didn't lie, and Davis cross-referenced the purchase history with travel logs. It all added up, painfully so. Even the spa tag on her new duffel told a story. It belonged to an exclusive members-only wellness retreat. Davis managed to obtain a schedule of their visits. One appointment note stood out: couples massage, guest name L. Tomlin. Not Lauren Holt. Not even Lauren Tyler, the fake alias. L. Tomlin, as if she was already preparing to change her name. She had folded herself into his life like it was hers all along. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I didn't scream. I read it all in silence. Then I saved everything to an encrypted hard drive. I made multiple backups. I printed high-resolution copies, organized them in color-coded folders, and slid them into a slim black briefcase. When Lauren came back from Savannah on Sunday evening, she looked radiant, tanned, relaxed, humming softly as she pulled into the driveway. I watched her from the upstairs window, expressionless. She walked in with the duffel slung over her shoulder, kissed me on the cheek, barely, and tossed a wrapped gift bag onto the counter. "Brought you something," she said. "Found it in a boutique downtown." It was a keychain, leather, embossed with the initials GH. I held it in my hand and nodded. "Thanks," I said. "Looks expensive." She smiled. It wasn't. Everything she said now felt filtered, rehearsed, like she was performing a role that no longer fit her. We made dinner together that night. I let her talk about her work trip, watched her invent meetings and traffic delays and long lunches with clients. I stirred pasta while she lied about the hotel minibar being overpriced. She laughed at her own joke. I smiled and said, "Yeah, those places will get you." I recorded everything. Monday morning, I emailed my attorney. Her name was Jenna Prescott, sharp, discreet, with a background in handling complex divorce cases. We met that afternoon in a downtown office with glass walls and locked doors. I handed her the briefcase. She opened it, scanned the first few pages, and looked up at me. "You've done most of my job for me," she said. "I don't want to burn everything," I told her. "I just want the truth to be impossible to deny." She nodded. "We'll begin with financial disclosures. I'll file for separation under grounds of infidelity. We'll request sole ownership of the house and an immediate freeze on joint accounts." "Don't file yet," I said. "Not until next week." She tilted her head. "Why?" I told her about the anniversary, about the lunch reservation, about the plan. Her eyes didn't change. She just nodded again, scribbled a note, and said, "All right, we'll hold until you give the signal." That week passed like a dream I couldn't wake from. Lauren was affectionate, more than usual. She started cooking again, wearing perfume to bed, texting me little memes during the day. Part of me wondered if she knew, if Eric had gotten cold feet, if she was hedging her bets. But it didn't matter. I watched her with the calm of someone who already knew the ending. Nothing she said could unring the bell. Nothing she did could rewrite the files sitting in that black briefcase. By Friday, everything was ready. The reservation was set, a country inn just outside town, the same one where I had proposed 11 years ago. Lauren wore a navy dress I'd never seen before, low at the back, gold earrings that caught the sun. She looked beautiful, and I felt nothing. We were seated on the back patio under a blooming arbor, candles flickering in the June breeze. She reached for my hand. 11 years, she said. "Feels like yesterday." I smiled gently. "It really does." She didn't notice the tablet on the table at first. I had hidden it beneath the napkin. When dessert was served, I slid it toward her and tapped the screen. "What's this?" she asked, smiling. Just a little something, I said. Thought it might be nice to look back. The screen lit up, not with wedding photos, not with memories, but with truth. Photos, email transcripts, hotel logs, location data, the Zoom recording, the very one that started it all. Her laugh, his voice, her reaction when she realized she wasn't alone on the call. Lauren's smile dropped in slow motion. Her hand froze midair. She looked up at me, eyes wide, then down again, then back up. I didn't say a word. She tried to speak. I saw her mouth start to form the words, but nothing came out. I stood, left cash for the meal, picked up the briefcase, and walked away. That night, I filed for divorce. I filed the divorce papers at 9:02 p.m. that same night. My attorney had them queued and ready. All I had to do was press send. The moment my finger clicked the mouse, it felt like crossing an invisible threshold. I wasn't Lauren's husband anymore. I wasn't anyone's. And I wasn't angry. I was ready. By the time I pulled into our driveway, Lauren's car was already there. The lights inside the house were off. I stepped through the door and found her sitting on the couch in complete silence. The tablet was beside her, still on, playing the same screen on a loop. The Zoom audio, her laughter, his voice calling her babe, before she realized she wasn't alone. She didn't look up as I entered, just stared forward, blank. I walked past her, calm, straight to the bedroom, packed 2 duffels. I didn't slam drawers or yank clothes from hangers. I moved like someone who had rehearsed every motion in their head for weeks. Maybe I had. When I returned to the living room, Lauren finally spoke. "Grayson," she said. Her voice was small, fragile. "Please." I paused at the front door, looked back at her, the woman I'd once built my life around. She wasn't crying. Not yet. She just looked like she didn't know where to start. "I'm not staying tonight," I said. "Can we talk?" she asked. "I need to." "No," I interrupted. "You already did all the talking. You just didn't know I was listening." She flinched at that. I opened the door and left. I spent that night at a friend's guest house. An old college buddy who didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and pointed to the spare key on the kitchen hook. I didn't drink much. I didn't sleep much either. But I didn't regret anything. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Lauren's messages started predictably. "Please call me. We can fix this. I didn't mean to hurt you." Then came the justifications. "It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. You've been distant." I didn't reply to a single one, but someone else did. At 10:14 a.m., a new thread lit up my notifications. A series of *TS posted publicly by Melissa Tomlin, Eric's wife. The caption was simple. "Found what my husband's been hiding. Thought I'd share." The *TS were brutal. Images of Lauren and Eric in a hotel lobby. A text from Lauren saying, "He doesn't suspect a thing." An email with the subject line "Savannah Escape," filled with hearts and hotel room numbers. Melissa didn't stop there. She posted their photos, side-by-sides of Lauren's social media and Eric's calendar entries. She tagged them both. She even tagged the hotel chain. Within hours, the posts were viral, not millions of views viral, but local viral. Enough to spread across our shared professional circles. Enough to land in the group chats of former coworkers, college friends, old acquaintances. The private became public. Lauren didn't respond at first. Her accounts went quiet. Then, sometime that afternoon, her Instagram vanished. Then her LinkedIn. Then her Facebook. She was erasing herself in real time, like the internet could somehow undo the damage. She called me 3 times. I didn't answer. At 6:40 p.m., Melissa messaged me directly. Her words were short and to the point. "Sorry we had to meet like this. You deserve better." I replied, "You too." Then I muted the thread. I didn't need to watch the fire to know it was burning. The next few days unfolded like an avalanche. Lauren's workplace issued a quiet but immediate response. She was put on administrative leave pending internal review. That's how they worded it. But I knew what it meant. HR scandals don't sit well with leadership, especially not ones involving someone in their own department. Her professional email bounced back by the following Monday. Mutual friends began reaching out cautiously. A few expressed shock. One or two admitted they'd seen signs but didn't want to get involved. I didn't respond to most of them. Not out of bitterness, but because there was nothing left to say. This wasn't gossip. This was a funeral for something that had already died quietly long ago. I sold our shared car within the week. The title had both our names, but Lauren didn't fight me on it. She didn't fight me on anything. I think she was too busy putting out fires to realize I'd already moved on. The lawyer expedited the asset division. Thanks to the documentation and the public fallout, the judge granted me temporary exclusive residence of our home. Lauren was instructed to vacate within 10 days. She didn't argue. She didn't even show up for the first hearing. By the time she did appear via Zoom, ironically, her image was grainy, her eyes tired, her background blurred. She wore a blazer, but it looked like it hadn't been ironed. She didn't speak much. Her lawyer did most of the talking. She didn't look at the camera once. That was the first time I'd seen her since the anniversary lunch. And it didn't feel like seeing my wife. It felt like seeing someone I used to know. After the hearing, she sent me an email. Just a few lines. I never wanted this to end like this. I don't know who I became. I'm sorry. I hope someday you'll believe that. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't believe her, but because it didn't matter anymore. Apologies are currency in a world we no longer shared. Eric, for his part, disappeared from view almost instantly. His wife filed for divorce. His company removed him from their partner directory. Rumor had it he tried to resign before they could terminate him, but it didn't work. A few mutual contacts said he moved out of town. Back to his parents' place in Florida, maybe. I never confirmed it. I didn't care. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about justice. It was about clarity. And now I had it. Lauren's fall wasn't cinematic. It wasn't a dramatic collapse. It was quiet. Systematic. Like a building imploding from within. One floor at a time. From the outside, you'd barely notice, just a woman deactivating accounts, losing colleagues, watching old friendships dissolve like sand through fingers. But I noticed. Because I'd lived in the blueprint of that collapse. And I had escaped it. Friends offered support. Some suggested therapy. Others offered drinks, road trips, blind dates. I nodded politely. Thanked them. Declined. I wasn't ready for distraction. I needed stillness. And silence. I took a leave of absence from work. Not long, just enough to breathe. I boxed up everything Lauren left behind. Her books. Her sweaters. Her framed degrees. I didn't burn them. Didn't throw them out. Just packed them neatly into 2 storage bins and labeled them Lauren. She never came to get them. Weeks passed. The media cycle moved on. Melissa's posts faded into background noise. The hashtags stopped trending. People found new stories to dissect. But inside me, the quiet lingered. Not painful. Not heavy. Just clear. For the first time in years, my life wasn't wrapped in performance. It was just mine. I changed the locks. Canceled the anniversary dinner reservation permanently from my OpenTable account. Donated half the clothes in my closet, hers and mine. Erased the playlists we'd made together. Started building new ones. No more matching keychains. No more Mr. and Mrs. towels. No more pretending. Lauren didn't reach out again. Not after the email. Not after the hearing. I think deep down she knew. The life we had was over. And the one she ran to? It burned faster than either of us could have imagined. In the weeks that followed, Lauren tried everything. Calls. Emails. Handwritten letters slipped into the mailbox. She even left a bouquet on the porch once, our wedding flowers, white hydrangeas and eucalyptus, tied with a ribbon I remembered from our centerpieces. None of it mattered. She wasn't trying to fix us. She was trying to erase the consequences. Mutual friends reported her mood swings. Some said she was apologetic, others said angry. She'd swing from pleading to blaming, depending on the day. At work, or what was left of it, she'd been placed on unpaid leave pending final decisions. A few colleagues quietly distanced themselves. One even sent me a message that read, "You deserved better, man." I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on the clean break. My attorney pushed through asset division, and with the mountain of evidence, I was granted the house and a lion's share of our shared savings. I emptied the joint accounts. Sold the car. Returned the few things I didn't want to keep. Lauren never contested anything. That told me more than any apology could. She knew. She knew it was over and that I was done waiting for her to explain why she chose someone else, someone who didn't even stick around after the dust settled. Eric had gone silent. From what I gathered, he moved out of state and didn't look back. He ghosted Lauren as quickly as she had ghosted the version of our life that used to matter. There was no dramatic goodbye. No long letter. Just absence. And Lauren? She was left alone in the wreckage she helped build. Meanwhile, I quietly started rebuilding piece by piece and entirely on my terms. 6 months after I walked out of that country inn, I left Georgia. Packed my tools, a few heirloom pieces, my dog-eared sketchbooks, and headed west. I found a quiet town in Oregon where life didn't feel like it was made of glass. Rented a small house just outside town. The kind with creaky floors and big windows that looked out at pine trees. There, I opened a small workshop. Furniture restoration. Old with new life. It was quiet work. Honest work. I sanded away stories I'd never know and gave people back something worth keeping. One rainy morning, a woman walked in with an antique chest. Her name was Cassie. The chest had belonged to her grandmother. She wanted it restored, not replaced. "It's ugly," she said, "but it matters." She smiled with the kind of warmth that wasn't performative. Her laugh didn't sound like Lauren's. It sounded like something real. We started talking. First about the chest. Then books. Then music. Then life. We weren't in a rush. She wasn't running from anything, and neither was I. We had coffee. Walks. Late-night talks about things that didn't need to be fixed, just shared. There were no secrets. No unread messages. No games. One evening, she sat across from me on the shop stool, sipping tea while I finished staining the chest. "You look different," she said softly. "Then when?" "Then the first day we met." I didn't answer right away. Just smiled, brushing a final stroke of finish across the wood. "I feel different," I said. Because I did. The betrayal hadn't broken me. It had freed me. And for the first time in years, I was no longer living someone else's version of a life. It was mine. And it was just beginning.